discussing the marketplace scorecard there that you included in there. I thought that was a really great kind of resource, and how you kind of actually listed out some of the specific criteria that you use for evaluating marketplaces. So could you maybe kind of walk us through some of those specific criteria on the scorecard?
Sure. I think, the scorecard is really rooted in our experiences and then analysis from marketplace experts like Bill Gurley, Casey Winters, Sarah Tallow, Dan Hockenmeyer, people that we read, as much as we could of what they had written before we worked on this. I think of from an investor perspective, and even as a founder, as you're maybe in the early stages of figuring out if a marketplace is the right approach, like the scorecard allows us to pass on 80% of marketplaces, but it doesn't tell us which marketplaces are going to make it. So the ideal approach for us as an investor is to create more of an index of the 20% that we think can meet a certain threshold that falls within our focus area as consumer investors. And the different aspects are of the scorecard are I think are pretty straightforward and make sense. Um, but maybe the other part of it, and yeah, I encourage you to go read the post. And Mike, we can go into more detail here, but I thought maybe the that part of the 80% was maybe most relevant. And then the second part is we do like to break it up into, especially the early stages, like Mike mentioned that John at Leland, we led their Series A as a member of the community. We actually went through this exercise with him and did where did we think that they were at today and where did we think the potential of where they could go? Because you're not going to be perfect at everything in the earliest stages. And so some of the potential has to do with the market and how big the market is and what are the characteristics of the market. And so we're not just looking at where you are today, though that is important. We are also looking at where we think this could go if it works the way that we all hope it does.
I think that's a really helpful context. But I guess, for founders here that are looking at that scorecard and they're saying, how does this apply to, what I'm building with my marketplace and like how should I think about it? Maybe could you kind of like help highlight some of those like I guess like the main kind of criteria that they should use and maybe tips for how they should think about it?
So actually, like a good portion of this is inspired by Bill Gurley's post from 10 plus years ago that holds up. And he talks about the characteristics of the ideal marketplace. And we started to tweak this a little bit based on some of the learnings that have been had in the market since then. Um, I think number one, as you're thinking about is the marketplace and the ideal model to solve the consumer problem that you're building for, is this new experience unlock? How different is it from the alternative? If you were building a subscription or if you were building just a regular commerce experience, like how different is what a marketplace can create for this category from those? And it has to feel it has to be more than just an incremental difference. It has to really change the game. Um, Then, in terms of frequency, higher frequency is better. It is possible to build a low frequency marketplace, but categories with higher frequency are going to be better. Um, you want there to be high liquidity. So if it's a market that's going to be, this is about getting going and what your liquidity metric is. Um, we just want to see signals of that as we're evaluating company. And then economic advantages, on the demand side and the supply side, ideally there are economic reasons why somebody would use your platform. They can make money off of it. It's cheaper. Um, they're getting access to something they couldn't otherwise get access for without having to pay up for it. There are different ways that you can create economic advantages, but you want to be really crystal clear on what yours are. Then there's the fragmentation. I mean, this is like classic textbook marketplaces. It needs to be hard to aggregate the supply, and there needs to be a degree of fragmentation that would be difficult for somebody to replicate, either a competitor or that it would be difficult for a consumer to say, "I'm just going to go direct, to the players because there aren't that many players." Um, the strength of network part. This is a little bit more of a summation of the things above. and trying to gauge the network effects in the business. And then the market opportunity, this connects to when I was talking about like larger TAM and smaller TAM categories. It is possible to build in a smaller TAM category, but you've got to be thinking earlier on about what your unlock is for the next revenue stream or the next adjacent category than you would if you were building in a category that had more opportunity. And then this aggregation edge has to do with aggregation of supply and demand. And are there shortcuts? Are there are you out ahead of the market in a way that you're able to take advantage of new distribution channels? Um, that's what we're trying to understand here.